Griefer was never just some annoying troll thrown into block tales to waste your time. He was a son who couldn't carry the weight of what his world and his father put on him. His story isn't about griefing, it's about pain, rebellion, and the one act that turned him from a spoiled teenager into the most tragic figure in the entire game. Most players see Griefer as just another chapter boss, but his arc hides the emotional center of block tales. To understand his story is to understand why this game isn't really about swords at all. It's about family, it's about resentment, and it's about what happens when a broken child decides the only way forward is to burn everything down. And the moment that proves this isn't in his taunts or his fights. It's the second he takes the Venomshank and does the unthinkable. That single choice tells us more about block tales than any Castle King or Dreamworld spirit ever could. Griefer isn't just a name. He's Brad Thaniyel, the son of Mayor Thaniyel, a man the whole town sees as a protector. To the people of Bizville, the mayor is a hero. To Brad, he's a cage. Where his father sees order, Brad sees walls closing in. Where his father builds safety, Brad sees control. Everything Griefer does in his chapter comes from that resentment. He lashes out not because he's pure evil, but because he feels suffocated. When he mocks, when he wrecks, when he tries to take what isn't his, it's not really about the player at all. It's about his father. Brad doesn't want to be remembered as the mayor's son. He wants to be remembered as his own force of chaos. And if the only way to be seen is to destroy, then destruction becomes his only language. And then there are the voices. They're not just background noise. They're his constant companions, whispering that he's meant for more. They push him toward the Venomshank, telling him to take the power he thinks he deserves. For a boy drowning in insecurity, those voices don't sound like corruption, they sound like freedom. What makes Griefer so fascinating is that his rebellion isn't against some faceless world. It's against his father's shadow. Every laugh, every strike, every taunt is aimed at breaking out of the mold he was born into. He isn't griefing the game. He's griefing his own life, tearing apart the role of perfect son that he never wanted to play. Everyone remembers the Venomshank as one of the great swords in block tales. When you finally clear Chapter 2 and defeat the bubonic plant, the game rewards you with this blade. On the surface, it's a powerful weapon. It's an action-type sword that deals 2 damage, poisons every enemy it hits for 3 turns, and ignores defenses that would normally protect them. A flashy prize for the player, but in Griefer's hands it becomes something much darker. It becomes a reflection of who he is. Venom doesn't kill in a single strike. It spreads, it lingers, it eats you alive slowly from the inside. That's what Griefer has been living with long before he ever picked up the Venomshank. His venom wasn't chemical, it was emotional. The venom of disappointment, the venom of being ignored, the venom of living in his father's shadow and knowing he would never measure up. Every laugh, every tantrum, every outburst in his chapter comes from that poison that had been building inside him for years. And then there's the word shank. Unlike the elegant names of the other swords, Ice Dagger or Ghostwalker, shank sounds crude, rough, even desperate. The word makes you think of a weapon someone might carve from scraps when they're locked away. That's exactly who Griefer is. Not refined, not noble. He's jagged and reckless, someone who feels trapped in a world that doesn't see him. So when he finally takes the Venomshank, he doesn't use it like a hero. He doesn't raise it high and swing it at enemies. He turns it on himself. There's no grand gesture, no moment of triumph. Just a boy using the only language he has left, pain. And that's what makes the Venomshank more than just a sword. In the hands of a hero, it would have been a tool of victory. In the hands of Griefer, it becomes the clearest expression of his suffering. Not a weapon of strength, but the proof that he was already broken inside. The moment Griefer drives the Venomshank into his own body, he stops being Brad Thaniyel and becomes something else entirely. He transforms into the bubonic plant, the true boss of Chapter 2. And that transformation isn't just a gameplay twist. It's the story showing you exactly what his pain has become. The bubonic plant isn't a clean monster. It's a grotesque fusion. His skull, his torso, even his arms are still visible inside the writhing fungus that has overtaken him. The boy doesn't disappear when the corruption spreads. He's trapped inside it, screaming silently from within. That design choice matters. You're not fighting a new creature. You're fighting the broken remains of Brad himself. Even the name bubonic plant tells the story. The word bubonic carries echoes of plague and decay, something that spreads uncontrollably, infecting everything in its path. And that's exactly what Griefer's despair has done. It has infected his body, twisted his identity, and turned him into the very poison he thought would set him free. Listen to his words before the transformation. He says, "If I'm going out, I'm taking you with me." That line isn't arrogance. It isn't a villain's boast. It's hopelessness. It's the voice of a boy who feels his life has already ended and sees destruction as the only way to make his suffering mean something. The fight itself is brutal. The bubonic plant hurls poisonous spores, vines, and decay at the player, dragging the battle into something chaotic and suffocating. Every attack feels less like strategy and more like desperation, as if the monster is trying to tear the world down with him. But what makes this battle unforgettable isn't the mechanics. It's the tragedy behind it. You're battling the embodiment of a son's collapse. A child who took a weapon meant to empower him and instead used it to destroy himself. And that's what makes this moment hit so hard. The bubonic plant is not a monster you can hate. It's a monster you can only pity. When the bubonic plant finally collapses, you expect the story to close like every other boss fight. The monster falls. The hero moves on. But Block Tales doesn't let Griefer's story end in defeat. Instead, it gives him something far more powerful. A second chance. Mayor Thaniyel doesn't strike the final blow. He doesn't condemn his son. He steps forward with something small but meaningful, a tart called the Special. In gameplay terms, it's a strong healing item, but in the story, it's the hand of a father reaching out to a son who's completely lost. And what happens next changes everything. Griefer doesn't just return to his old self, he returns as someone transformed by compassion. For the first time in his arc, he isn't defined by venom or rebellion. He's defined by relief, by gratitude, by the quiet realization that he isn't as alone as he thought. This is his redemption. Not because the tart is magical, but because his father chose mercy over judgment. In that moment, Griefer learns that no mistake, no act of defiance, no rebellion is enough to erase the bond of family. That's why this scene matters so much. It takes a character who seemed beyond saving and proves that even the most corrupted figure can be brought back with forgiveness. The boy who stabbed himself with the Venomshank is not left to rot in despair. He's pulled back, accepted, and given the chance to start over. And for the first time, Griefer isn't fighting anyone. He isn't rebelling. He's at peace. And if Griefer's collapse shows us how fragile family can be, the Cruel King shows us what happens when that collapse is complete.